Hey Randomizer, welcome to another NIKKE video. So this is the third and final review of Laplace and whether or not she is suitable for you, okay? And I just want to preface this by, for the past few days, I have thought about how I should approach my character reviews. So as you saw here for Laplace, we had a Shujupo preview followed by an in-depth review. Now the last one is taking account into all the resources I've gathered. I know a lot of people say that, why don't you just release one information, but unfortunately, I do want to make sure that my videos are somewhat first in terms of getting that YouTube algorithm. So I hope you understand, okay? I'm not trying to compromise my quality, but it is just how the YouTube space works. So moving forward, I think I'll be a bit more structured in a way, which is the first one is not going to be called Shujupo Laplace or not, but rather a unit preview, because like you saw in my previous video, I do have access to the test servers as a content creator, so I can take a look and show you guys how the unit looks like. So that'll be the first one, and the second one will come out on the day of release, which is a more in-depth testing on the live servers. So we'll pull for Laplace or whatever unit is there, and on the same day we'll release a video testing it and showing the results, and then followed by another video a day or two later where, after extremely high amounts of testing, then we can settle down and compile a final rating for the unit. I really hope you can understand the way I'm tackling this while maintaining my YouTube side of things. So let's take a look at Laplace, and before we start, I can go over the sources I've used. So first of all, this was kind of stemmed from a user kind of reaching out to me and showing him, how his Laplace worked, right? And in my previous videos, I was like, Laplace is great, but more boss focus, gonna have its niche. However, he did a lot of in-depth research, and I thank you for reaching out to me, and then we can go over a lot of the information here and dissect that. So that is part one. Part two is, I've brought my Laplace to Limit Break 3 to test things. I swiped and bought some gems, and wanted to get Laplace to Limit Break 3, but also keep my gem count high, at least a pity and a half or 2 pities later for some of the units that are coming up. And the third resource, of course, we're here with the CN tier list, the JP tier list, the Taiwan content creator that cleared 16-28 as one of the first in the world. All right, so all these three information I've gathered to present to you. Okay, Laplace. All right, so here. So how is Laplace actually? So if we go by the Discord group, Discord information, of course, I also want to show that in my own guild, we've done testing, all right? We've got people that basically core 7'd Laplace already, +7 Laplace, and yeah, they have pretty much the general consensus of Laplace being a hero that is very, very strong in specific niche environments. All right, and this was the output or the conclusion drawn by this person as well. So against units like Chatterbox, Thermite, Spook, Scarf, basically impact bosses, high impact bosses with clustered parts, so their core parts are together, or their red reticules, their circles are together, Laplace is absolute beast. Which means if you're going to be competitive for guild versus guild, the raids that come up later, or if you are stuck at some specific floors, she's going to be a very, very strong addition, okay? She's going to output an extremely high amount of damage. Comparable to Scarlet, if you saw in my previous video, she's going to keep up 100%, right? And you can see here in other testings for the other stages, all right, Laplace does fall a tiny bit short, but she's able to do really well against units like Heron on your team if you don't have Heron maxed up. So that is actually one of the key things that I want to bring up, okay? For those of you that don't have Pilgrim units, okay, and you're not saving for later units, Laplace is a fantastic unit to have. She is very, very good in that regard because she is able to keep up with the DPS from some of the other units. And if we take a look at here, right, she is out damaging Rupee, who is a very, very good unit because of how her attack scaled. We talked about it in my Rupee or top 2 underrated unit. She is going to be really strong because of that attacking stack, and Laplace was able to keep up and be on top. And of course, Rupee does synergize with Laplace really well, so I can talk about it later. And looking at some of the other setups, basically her burst is where the source of the damage from. All right, her burst is where the source of damage from. So looking at the first initial 1 minute and 15, everyone's going to output pretty much similar damage if they get their burst off first. All right, so I think one of the things that people were confused about is, you know, I used the Laplace, I used her burst first, so my plus is doing more damage. So, well, first of all, it's very difficult to replicate a safe and repetitive environment to test things, and that's why when we took it to the shooting range, it's not ideal. Okay, it's not ideal for some of those units just because the shooting range doesn't reflect the stages, right? But similar in the sense that, you know, the other game modes are unique, right? You've got your boss fights, but not every stage is the boss fight, and not every stage is going to have boss fights with parts close together. So again, every unit is going to have their niche uses, and Laplace excels at units at boss fights that allows her to focus down those parts. So this is the general consensus from the Discord feedback. Well, let's take a look at the CN tier lists, right? So we've got the CN and the JP tier list. Where does CN put her? So CN right now puts her at pretty much the top of tier 1, right? So she's at S- here, just under Yuha and Drake. All right, even though it's conflicting in the sense that pretty much a lot of people who provided feedback saying that Laplace is better than Drake. So again, tier lists are very, very subjective. They're very, very subjective. So always take it with a grain of salt. In my final verdict videos that I'm going to make for every character, I will try to offer you as much information as possible so you can make your own decision. All right, that is the key and the goal of this. So Laplace is sitting at tier 1 at the moment on the CN tier list. And going into the JP tier list, Laplace currently sits at tier 2. All right, this is where she is, just above him, but under these units. But as you can see, there's already a huge difference between the JP and CN tier list, where Yuha is T2, and yeah, again, it's going to be different. So for this Taiwanese content creator, what he did, all right, is he used Laplace extensively past stage 16, because for him, stage 17, I think, unlocked already. Chapter 17, so he's able to push. And for the mega whales, why Laplace is good? Okay, why Laplace is good? Because she is a rate up banner unit that's going to do comparable damage above Drake, because Drake is going to be sometimes your slot 3, sometimes that slot is taken by Rapunzel, which forces you go dual core into Scarlet Heron. But she is much easier. Laplace is much easier to max limit break. So if you do max limit break and core her up, right, you're going to have a higher power rating. And higher power rating means less debuffs, which means you're able to clear the stage easier. So one of the mega whales in my guild basically took Laplace to +7, right, core up 7. Why? Because she's able to push the power range and push ahead more in terms of the content. So this is why, and for some of you who pull dupes of Laplace, going to see Laplace perform very well. But we have to, take every single bit of information into consideration. Are you going to be a mega whale that's able to push her that much? Probably not, right? For the average players, is one copy of Laplace going to be good for you? If you don't have pilgrims, then yes, she's going to be fantastic. Especially she is going to be able to be put into the wish list for you later, or if you pull multiple copies, she's going to be great. Okay, so taking all that information, you should be able to make a decision on whether or not you should be able to use Laplace. So the second part and the last bit about this video is her team composition. What should you run team-wise? So right off the bat, you'll know that Laplace is an iron type. All right, she is an iron type unit, which means that she gets boosted by Rupee. So Rupee is going to be a very good addition to Laplace. All right, and of course we also have Privity. So one of the core teams, and because Rupee has really good burst too, all right, your core team is basically just going to be, and I'll show you if we bring up the squad, your core team is just going to be Laplace as your main burst 3, and Laplace does really well on auto too. Okay, sorry, manual and auto, but mostly manual because you're able to drag the thing a bit faster. So Laplace as your burst 3, Litter as your burst 1 into Rupee, who is going to buff everyone on the team, because all these 4 core units are iron type, right? And then you've got Privity, who is also iron. So these 4 are the absolute core, and you already have, right, burst 1, burst 2, burst 3, burst 3, covering all the cooldowns. So your 5th position is very flex. In my honest opinion, if you don't have Pilgrims, you can run Drake. If you have Scarlet, you can put Scarlet in. So it's very flexible. I think this is a super strong core group that is going to do well. And you can even put busted supports such as Senti or Rapunzel here, right? Making the team composition even better. So anyhow, guys, this is a quick rundown. Let me know if you like this type of restructuring, where, again, like I've said, over the course of days, I'll have the pre-release information, the preview information, with access to the test server, so you guys can see what the unit is like, but no ratings, right? No tier list or whatnot. Second video, some in-depth testing, initial ratings, and the third video, gathering everything that's available and then letting you guys make a decision. So my ultimate verdict for Laplace, I think she is a low A, high B, right? Low A, high B unit, and it's actually what you guys came up with as well on my community forum. I think most people put her at A, and you know, the rest, you know, find her tiny bit underwhelming, and 50% of you don't have her just yet. So the verdict is, if you have a lot of gems and you don't have a specific unit you're pulling for or saving for, then go ahead, grab a copy of Laplace. If you're Mega Whale, grab multiple copies so you can benefit from that power buff. If you got Rupee, if you got Privity, I think Laplace teams, the Iron type Laplace team, is going to be a great bonus for you. And then for the average players who's saving up for later units, then you must hold strong, alright? You must hold strong. So anyhow, it's TimaeuSS here, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye now.